Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Sketchy Ideas, the point, counterpoint, debatable live video podcast where we debate ideas, thoughts, philosophies based around business, leadership, personal development, you name it. We've talked about it, including movies, whether they're good or bad. I am flying solo today because Mr. Rampolla had something pop up in his calendar. And so today you get a full dose of me, which means we get to talk about some of the stuff that I like to talk about. And today we're going to talk about, does your content suck and why does it suck? All right. But before we dive into that, I want to give a shout out to a couple of the organizations powering this show. We can flip to that slide. All right. We've got two of them today. We've got Spirity. Spirity is one of the best change-making consulting firms that I've ever worked with. They work with a lot of mid-sized and larger companies to help enable and transform the personnel inside of that organization so that those individuals can grow. Because if your individuals grow in your company, guess what? Your business grows. All right. That's what they do. They help you. They put structure around it, everything, and they make it really fun and really easy. Our second organization and company sponsoring this is Cream City Marketing. You've heard me talk about it. We help a lot of small, medium, and even some larger businesses building out content strategies specifically, as well as doing whole marketing strategies and everything surrounding marketing from helping them deal with printing and publishing for internal uses to building out digital structures and funnels and even doing video projects and a whole gambit of stuff. All right. So hit them up, go to spirity.com or creamcitymarketing.com. You'll find out a little more. All right. With that, we're going to dive into content. All right. And this is something that I have been studying and working on for almost 15 years now. I'm going to tell you a little story. This whole idea of content started back when I was in college, when I decided to do my first foray into entrepreneurship by putting on a kids triathlon. And not just a kids triathlon, but a kids triathlon with training. And all the content we had to produce was not what you would consider marketing in the sense of the word marketing, but it was marketing because all the content we had to produce was in order to help educate and empower and change the beliefs of the parents who potentially were going to let their kids participate with a whole bunch of teenage and college kids in training their kids to do a triathlon. So if you think about all the risks, if you're a parent, all the stuff that you might have to think about, why would my kid do this? What are the risks of them doing this? Will this benefit them? How will this benefit them? How will this benefit our family? All of that stuff was answered through content. We didn't do advertising, okay? Now, to this day, that event is the longest running event in at least one community. And I know, obviously, outside of last year, that event has been going for 12 years straight. Training program. And I'm not talking small training program. I'm talking 6 to 8 weeks worth of training twice a week for these kids to show up, do the work with, guess what, coaches who we had to train, all that stuff, right? All of this is talking about content. And I don't want you to think about it in that sense of the word. That's like local content marketing, all right? We're not talking about digital. We're not talking about SEO. We're not talking about whether or not this is going to drive organic traffic from across the world to your business. But today we're going to dive into that, okay? And a question I get all the time from clients is, my content isn't doing what I thought it was supposed to be doing. But guess what? It's probably because you're not structuring it. You're not doing it regularly. You're not hitting one of the pillars of what makes content great. All right. I've got some stats here for you that were really, really interesting to me in the world of the internet that is growing exponentially. What I mean by that is that the information that people are putting on the internet is exponentially going up. So if you're familiar with exponential curves, I literally mean when we talk about if this, and I'm going to talk about the public internet, okay? Not DARPANet that's back in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. I'm talking about commercialized public use internet. Initially, content grew like this. It went up. We hit the bubble, and then went back down. And now it's literally doing this. Okay. So if we talk about time and we talk about content, this is what it's doing right now. And the reason it's doing that is because the internet is evolving. With the internet 2.0 and social media, content became way more important. I read a book back in like the early 2000s that talked about the 4 C's of content, right? You were doing creation, curation, cooperation, and I'm drawing a blank on the 4th one. It'll pop. It'll come back at some point, like probably tomorrow or in the middle of the night, and I'll wake up and text somebody. But the point is that now more than ever, if you're trying to find a way to build a business that is going to maintain ups and downs of every market, or you're trying to build a business on a shoestring, content is going to help you get there, all right? When we think about content, though, the one thing that people often compare themselves to is, hey, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be production ready. It's got to be all this stuff. But in an age where 63% of marketers and businesses are creating content or making it a staple in their marketing strategy or sales strategy, there's no way that every piece of content is going to be perfect, okay? So what I want you to understand is that all the methodologies out there, all the frameworks, all the tools, even a bunch of what I'm saying today probably won't be relevant or may have shifted in relevancy 10 years from now, 12 years from now, 15 years from now. It might even be 5 years from now based on the speed of how things are going, right? We haven't even figured out, if you remember Google Glass, when that whole thing came up, that brings up a whole new motif or like whole new theme of where we're talking about what content means, okay? Brian, help me out. Create, captivate, community, convert. That's one of the ways, that's the 4 C's we're talking about, yes. But if you think about how it's evolved, right? So back to in the early thousands, we were talking about blogging, and not beautiful blogs, not on websites, literally white slab and you get words. That was content. That stuff's still out there if you go find it and if you search for it. Now, they've probably made updates to everything and probably repurposed it and shifted it and made it more relevant, okay? But the point is that it's still there. SEO specifically, this is why SEO marketers were frowned upon way back when, because the way the internet was built 10 years ago was about keywords, metadata, all that stuff. And they could do a whole bunch of stuff in the CSS, all that stuff, help with it. But they weren't thinking about content in the way that I think about content, the way our team thinks about content, the way that any of this stuff works, okay? They weren't thinking about mobile. They weren't thinking about, hey, how do I take this piece of content and repurpose it so that it works not only on the internet, but also maybe in a physical publication that I know is being shipped out next month or 3 months from now, right? What happens to that magazine? More and more people are hanging on to those magazines longer because they're not getting them every month. They're getting them every quarter, right? So if you're publishing to a magazine and it's going to a doctor's office or a dentist's office or something along those lines where there still is foot traffic, they still have those magazines. Trust me, I've been going to physical therapy for the last couple months. They still exist. Those publications are there, okay? Content is so critical to the mainstay of a business. Whereas advertising changes like every month. So paying for advertising on Facebook, Google AdWords, Instagram, Pinterest, banner ads, right? Native ads, all that stuff. Those algorithms shift consistently because they're just digital. Content algorithms haven't shifted as much as people think in comparison to and relevancy to what advertising does, okay? So with that being said, think about it from this standpoint. If we know that content is shifting so much, right, that content is so important, why is it still that 65% of marketers still think it's challenging to produce content? And guess what? 62% don't even know how to measure it. All right? Content is just a math equation at the end of the day. There is an art to it, right? Just like with anything, we can say there's a science and an art to almost anything in the world right now, especially when it comes to business, especially in what you do. If you are running a coaching service, you're probably leveraging science to build your methodology, but you're putting your own spin on it. That's an art that you may not be able to quantify or measure. It's the same thing with finance, right? Finance, everybody's got their methodologies and their formulas with, hey, how do I get the best ROI in the market these days versus this is my small tweak of what I look for in the business in order to make my judgment character, even though, guess what? Stock markets and trading is all based on trader psychology, right? And we know that based on the whole GameStop fiasco that happened last week. So all I'm saying is that if you're thinking about content, don't be in that realm of people that struggle to create engaging content, who don't know how to measure it, and guess what? Don't produce it consistently, right? So when we think about content, you have to think about it really in terms of three major areas, okay? When we talk about content specifically, we have to think about it in the framework of, is it timely? Is it entertaining? And does it drive value to my target? And here's why. When we think about content, the whole point of content is what does it do to fulfill your goals? My definition of marketing. Marketing is the changing of beliefs with the intent of a sale down the line. That's the whole point of it, right? Sales is objection handling and building rapport with the intention of a close. Close could mean a sale or a conversion, right? Closing is the rationalization of why somebody needs to make that decision right now. That's it. Boil it down. So if we think about marketing as the shifting of beliefs with the intent of a conversion, and you're leveraging the internet or you're leveraging whatever your business model is, if you're using regular salespeople, this helps them too. And I'm going to explain how, okay? But before I do that, I want to dive in and draw a diagram that I like to share with a lot of people, okay? If this is your business has layers, right? Your business, you probably may have a storefront, you may have an office, you probably have a website, something along those lines, okay? Either way, this is your business. Your business is complex. However you've got your core business set up, it's very complex. But the likelihood of you not being in one of these things, these next things, is very low, I would imagine, especially if you're watching this show, okay? We categorize this as the core, right? This is the soul of your footprint. So when we talk about it in the sense of a digital footprint, you probably have, this is, like I said, this is your website. But at the end of the day, all this stuff is to drive cash down here. And I'm going to move my camera so you can see this and try and stay in frame for everybody. Back it up. Back it up. All right. Right? A conversion. We're just going to use the dollar signs as our realm for conversion, right? Your goal at the end of the day is to drive people, again, down, and you're going to use channels. You might have social. You might have a blog or be on a blog somewhere. You might have some PR out there. You might have a podcast, right? You might be doing videos somewhere, right? Or presentations or webinars, or maybe you've got, sales funnels, whatever you have. These all are pieces, and I know I'm missing some, but again, I'm trying to keep this streamlined. All of these things, the whole point of this is to drive traffic. At the end of the day, all we're doing is driving traffic to the business so that at the end of the day, you can make some dough or you can have a conversion, okay? So if we consider that fact, all right, and you've probably heard me talk about this before, this all falls into how we move people from these channels down a customer value journey or a funnel, right? You probably have seen me do this before, okay? You've got a funnel, all the channels, right? Channels up here. You're collecting names, people, whatever, or they're seeing you, branding, whatever. You want them to come down, right? So we have top of funnel content, middle of funnel content, and bottom of funnel content, okay? Now, all of these pieces of content we're getting into, prefacing, we're getting into how to create engaging content. What content will actually help you convert and move people down? Because all this is our CVJ, right? However you classify it, whether it's a CVJ, your value ladder, maybe you've got a sales process that you know works. Again, we're just moving people down a funnel. And at the end of the day, you've got people who are just finding out about your business. They're beginning to learn more about your business, and then they're converting in your business or wanting to ask specific questions. Again, this is very surface level. This is them trying to understand your frameworks and traffic to see if it works for them. And this is them rationalizing if they're going to become a client or a customer. That's it, okay? So when we look at this stuff, at the end of the day, all we're doing is trying to determine with our content where this all fits. Now, each of these pieces of content, I walked through it pretty quickly. I want to reiterate, top of funnel. This is where you're trying to gain their interest. This is all about entertainment value mostly, okay? And does it add value to them if they're looking for it? So if we know 56% of Google search is done on mobile devices, we know that a lot of it is going to be top of funnel stuff because it's people entertaining themselves in between things. They're in between meetings. They might be searching for a quick fact. They might be trying to fix something. They might be trying to remedy something out in the field. They might be trying to go, hey, I'm having a bad day. I need something for my brain to like calm me down right now. Once they engage with you, the idea of this whole bingeable content piece that we've heard a lot about and a lot of people structure for or try to structure for, but struggle with it, is because they don't have the pieces of content laid out in a way that makes sense to drive people down this funnel incrementally, right? I'll use a prime example with Bee Pods, one of our internal clients. Bee Pods is a beekeeping company. We work with a lot of hobbyist beekeepers. A lot of these hobbyist beekeepers are looking to get into beekeeping. So we got content based around, hey, bees are cool. Top of funnel, right? We get them interested in beekeeping. Then we get them to subscribe along the way. Now they're here. Hey, maybe beekeeping works for you. Let me answer some questions for you. We help them understand how beekeeping works, time commitment, resource allocation. Will it work for them? Yeah, they can do beekeeping. Now, down here, we say, hey, we've got some solutions for you. Why don't you work with us and we'll coach you through it in your first however many years, or we'll do it for you, right? But the content is structured in a way and layered in a way that it pulls people down piece by piece by piece by piece. Now, all right, so I know a lot of you are saying, great, that's the big concept. Now, how do you actually build each of those individual pieces of content, right? Because you just threw out all of those different YouTube, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn, my blog. We've got a YouTube channel. Hey, we're starting Vimeo, this TikTok thing, Snapchat. Hey, there's this new thing, Clubhouse, that I don't understand what the heck it is. Hey, there's Twitter Spaces. Twitter, how many of you actually watch Twitter anymore or follow Twitter anymore? I do. But there's an insane, Twitch, I mean, literally could go on forever, right? And all of these channels have been created because there's over 3.4 billion people on the internet around the world. That's almost half of the world's population is on the internet regularly. That's nuts. So all of those people are ingesting and digesting information and content very differently. It's a supercomputer in everybody's pocket that gives them the answers to their burning questions. So the challenge is how do you make your content stand out? And there is no simple answer, but there is a process that you can follow to help your business figure out what type of content works for your solutions that you're putting out there in the world, okay? Now, there's frameworks. We just got a comment from Consuela. Thanks. Where do you put each level of content? So that depends. Again, so I'm going to go through how we run this experiment. If you're trying to figure this out, I want you to think like a mad scientist, right? If you studied science, like me, again, recovering scientist, do you understand the scientific method, right? You've got a question, you've got a hypothesis, you build right? Which is essentially you're making a guess. You build an experimental design, you run it, you get some data, you analyze, and then odds are you probably have another question, right? It's the same thing. All you're doing is running this over and over and over again, and you keep iterating on it, right? BPods itself drives cash flow when we create content. That's it. When we create content, money comes in. When we don't create content, the money stops, straight up. It's a weird thing. But like I remember having this light bulb go off in my head about 3 years ago when I discovered this. Because for the first 3 years of running that business, I was writing content regularly. I was running the blog, I was doing the newsletter, I was creating other content, I was running the social media, I was doing all this stuff amidst everything else, okay? So I get the grind. When I got busy and I stopped producing content, the sales and the leads stopped coming in. It was an interesting correlation that I found, and I tested it over and over and over and over and over again with BPods as well as with other clients to prove if content actually made an impact on generating cash flow. And sure enough, it did, okay? And it varied, but it happened, all right? So what do I mean by this experimental design? This goes back to, with the question answer, all that, you just run that over and over again with, hey, take a topic, write about the topic, polish the topic, post it, measure it, ask another question, make another guess, okay? It's the same thing. So for Consuelo, when you're asking this question, think about it from the standpoint of what is the goal of my business, right? If you understand the goal of your business, you probably have topics that fit into that you talk to your clients about that you probably could write about. One of the reasons that Michael and I do this show, specifically for Spirity, is Spirity does a lot of great stuff, okay? And I'm sure he'll admit this if you ask him. Michael enjoys doing this show because it forces him to regularly produce content that is relevant to his clients and helps to explain and teach his frameworks to the people who need them, because they will then come to him, ask him if they're the right fit, and then they will begin either working together or he will point them in the right direction. But either way, he's adding value, okay? So when we talk about the stuff, at the end of the day, value is one of the pieces that you need to look at from a topic standpoint in your frameworks and the type of information you're putting out there, okay? Value is number one. The next thing I would say is entertaining or novelty, okay? Is it entertaining? This gets into the binging piece. I was doing some research before we got on this, and it was interesting to find out there's been a bunch of polls, especially in the last 2 years. This specific one is from prior to COVID, because I wanted to go prior to COVID, where they did a poll in October of 2020 where they polled, I want to say it was like 2,500 people, and they asked them if they preferred if Netflix or these shows launched all of the episodes for a season at once, or piecemeal, or one week at a time, or somewhere in the middle. So do you want them all at once? Do you want us to send one out a week, or do you want somewhere in the middle? And all of these streaming services now have been testing it. But during that poll, majority of the people of those three options wanted, and when I say majority, almost half of the people said, I want them all at once. And that's ages 18 to adulthood, right? That's across the board. It was consistently the same way. From 18-year-olds to 75, 80-year-olds, all said the same thing in different ratios, but all said the same thing. It's the same thing from a binging standpoint, because that content is entertaining. That's why they want it. They want it all at once. Consuela asked, thanks, Consuela. It is bingeable and entertaining. If you make it bingeable, if you add value and you make it entertaining to that value, they will come back for more. And the last piece of this is timely, right? Timely. Now, I've got 5 minutes left. Brian's pinging me about this. Timely, what that means, you don't have to time it up with the news cycle. If you're creating content regularly, and this is why creating content regularly, whatever that means for you, it will live in perpetuity online. Online goes back to that initial stuff. SEO. SEO was not built overnight. So when you get SEO marketers going, hey, I'm going to help you build traffic. Yeah, they're going to drive traffic for a little bit because they're hacking the algorithm on Google, Yahoo, Bing, whatever. But that algorithm is going to shift. But the content remains. You heard me when I said BPods makes money when we produce content, BPods doesn't. Well, we've been producing content, but we definitely have lessened the amount of content. But because that content is there, I go back and look at the stats. One of our best posts, we are a top, last I looked, top, and Brian can correct me, top like 15 blog on beekeeping in the world. That's not because we did a bunch of advertising. That's not because we're all over the place. That's because we built content. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't travel to every beekeeping conference. I didn't go to every education conference. I didn't go to every business conference. I didn't do that. I didn't spend thousands on ads. We just wrote blog posts. That's it. That's it. We're still making money. Okay? It works. So my point of today is to help you understand you've got a digital footprint. You have to run traffic. You have to make sure that when you're building your content, does it add value? Will it be entertaining? Don't make it dry. And is it timely? AKA, timely for me needs to be, I just need to be producing content regularly based on the offers I'm putting out there at that time. And as long as that offer is out there, even if that offer isn't out there, put it out there, okay? And it doesn't have to be perfect. Go back. I challenge all of you. Go find the first podcast episode. I literally started podcasting last year. I've been on podcasts prior, but literally started my own last year. It's not high quality. It's good stuff. It might be entertaining. I know there was some timeliness to it, but the thing is it's not great. So don't get stuck in the loop of having to create perfect content all the time. You guys see on this show how many challenges we have with some of the technology. That's because we're doing it live, so we're taking a risk, but we're putting it out there. And I'm hoping we're adding value. I'm hoping we're adding some entertainment. Michael's not here today, so I'm the entertainment. Hopefully that's okay. At least my drawing isn't as good. So if anything, you can poke fun at me in the comments about my drawing because, you know, I'm totally an artist. But it's also very timely, okay? We are now living full-fledged in the internet era. If you are not writing or creating content regularly, and I'm saying, are you doing a video every day or every week? Are you posting on social media? Pick one platform to start. Are you writing a blog regularly? Are you sending out emails to your list regularly? Now, the cool thing with all of this, and when we dive into it further, we start talking about repurposing. We talk about efficiency. So, and this is a little teaser, all right? I want you to understand there are tools and systems out there for you where you can take one big piece of content and you can turn it into a bunch of other smaller pieces of content. Whoa. What do you think all the people who are out there doing this? If you're a business person, you've probably heard of Gary Vee, you've probably heard of Russell Brunson, you've probably heard of Grant Cardone, you probably know Damon John, you probably know Barbara Cochran, all the celebrities, right? You know all these celebrity entrepreneurs. How do you think they produce so much content and are everywhere all the time? First of all, they figured out their voice. And they figured out their voice by producing content regularly. I challenge everybody who's watching this, and if you're watching this If this is now 2022 or 23 or 24 and you're watching this, I challenge you to start trying to produce content every single day. Put something out there, whether it's a social media post that adds value, entertaining, and is timely, or you're posting about something that's going on in your life, or you're putting out a podcast, or you're doing a YouTube video, or you're writing a blog post. And if you don't have a website, that's okay too. Go to Medium. Just go do it. That's the biggest thing. I'm from the Midwest. We're stubborn. We're very like hardy. We're trying to we got to do this right. Man, I have so far flipped my head around the fact of this that it's just about producing to figure it out. It's getting up to bat. The more times you get up to bat, the more likely your content is to go viral. Because every once in a while, right, if you get up to bat 300 times during a 162 game season, and you get up to bat 300 times, you're still probably only going to hit, on average, 20 to 30 home runs. But it's 300 bats, to do it. So you're looking at OPS. On base plus slugging is what you're really shooting for. You're not shooting for a home run every time. I promise. Curveball. Anyway, Brian's yelling at me. We're over time. All right. So to close this out, content. Your content doesn't suck. The odds are you're probably just not producing enough of it. And when you do produce it, you're not following a process. Pick a template. You want templates? Drop comments. If you want a template, I've got templates. Put your name in the comments below, and I will make sure that we send out the templates that we use for blog posting specifically, okay? Because blogging is the easiest thing. It's the safest thing. It's the one you can take the most time or spend the least time editing, and it's the easiest for all of us to do because we don't have to manage technology. We don't have to listen to our voice. I don't have to watch myself on video later on and get made fun of, which is totally okay now. So please make fun of me. But the point is it just starts by doing. So just go produce content. And if you need help on the framework, put your name in the comments. Ping us, email us, info@sketchyideashow.com, and we'll get back to you. We're willing to help because I believe in the Midwest in terms of the value that we bring. And I know a lot of the people on this are from the Midwest. The challenge with Midwest people who live here is we're very much not, for the most part, self-promoters. That's a skill, and it's a skill we all have to learn. Because if we started doing that, we would start making impacts the way we want to make impacts. But we got to get past that. And the easiest way to get past it is to start producing content regular and putting it out into the world, especially digitally, because guess what? If you don't like it later on, you can always tear it down. That's the cool part about most digital stuff, okay? So do me a favor. If you like this show, share it with somebody. If you got some value, put what you got out of it in the comments below. I'd appreciate it. I know everybody else watching this later on will appreciate it. And again, more than happy to help you with this, more than happy to help you get started, more than happy to help you build out a plan so that you can execute regularly in order to get more content out in the world. Because I want you to add value to your clients, and I want you to add value to people who aren't your clients yet. And there are ways to do it specifically that don't include sharing the secret sauce that we didn't get a chance to talk about today because I only had 30 minutes. So with that, I will see you next time on Sketchy Ideas. Hopefully Michael will be back next week. And thank you to our sponsor, Spirity, Cream City Marketing. And just remember, just because you found it on the internet and it's a sketchy idea, doesn't mean it's not worth exploring. So keep digging, keep trying to find new ideas, and keep testing. All right, we'll see you next week. Take care.